I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day.
Alan, Josh?
Well. Look who's back. Where the hell have you been? At home, sitting in your asses?
Go away now, Josh. Actually, my name is Alan.
You're a dorky white kid with a Cub Scout bandana on his head.
Bravo.
Echo.
November.
Tango. On.
Football.
Hey, welcome back to Bend on Fantasy Football. Alan and Josh here with you today again. And we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about this week. I say that every week, but this week, a lot more cool stuff than normal.
Yes.
So, we are going to talk about Thursday night game.
Yes, absolutely.
And we got some key takeaways from our draft. And we are going to go into detail on our draft and what was kind of going through each of our empty minds while we were drafting, other than the flow of alcohol. We're also going to talk about a couple other things at the end that we're going to kind of leave for you to find out later. But we do want to get this thing rolling, and as we do every week, we've got our beer sitting here.
Absolutely. I'll go first. And my beer is called Cup Watch. And
Whoa, hold on. I have a question. Are you
two guys, one cup.
Are you watching Players' Cups? You
Yes.
should be watching the plays.
Okay,
All right, cool.
true. You're right. But Cooper Kupp on that Thursday night game had 13 catches out of 14 targets.
It's a lot of targets.
It is. It's a lot of catches too.
It is.
So we're gonna do every week. We're gonna do a Cup Watch, and we're gonna see. We're thinking 200.
It's going to be very close to that.
Yes,
especially
catches.
if this keeps up the way it
Yeah.
is this week.
So we'll see if he can get to 200 catches. That's almost impossible. But after seeing Thursday's game,
Nothing's impossible.
nothing's impossible. So that's my beer's Cup Watch. What's yours?
Mine, I have an additional bet prediction for this week, other than the ones we made last week in regard to the games and over and unders and all that good stuff. My additional bet prediction is going to be David Montgomery versus the San Francisco 49ers defense. Good run defense, by the way. 100-plus yards. Not for the season, for this week.
Oh, I was going to say for the season, he might get close.
I figured you'd go there with me. So, so it's time. Let's do this thing.
Let's do this.
All right. As we do every week, we're going to pop open a cold with you guys. Just sit back, enjoy the show.
Man, Cooper's Cup tasted good right there. Don't say anything
does
else.
Does his cup runneth over?
Yes.
Tell me.
Yes.
Okay, enough of that. Josh, you want to get us started? We're gonna talk about our fantasy draft, and Josh, get us rolling here.
Absolutely. We had our fantasy draft this past Saturday, and Alan and I we've talked about this for the last couple weeks. Go into your draft with your rankings, okay? And stick to your rankings, stick to your guns. Who is your top player? And I feel that's what we did. But we're going to go over some of the picks and how we feel about them and how our teams came out. I think I did really, really well.
We all think that before the season
I know. But you had the 6th pick.
I did, and you had the 7th pick.
I had the 7th pick. So
it's pretty interesting the way it went down. There's a lot of psychology involved, and I love that in the draft when there's more than just like who am I going to pick next. There's a psychology to trying to do this or trying to do that. And there was a lot of that going on, and I caught on to a lot. I don't know how much you caught on to, but
I did.
But I had some stuff that I'm going to share with you too. But let's dive right into it.
Okay.
So let's talk about round number 1. I went before you, so
yeah. So the draft started off a little weird, and it went Jonathan Taylor, of course, CMC, Derrick Henry.
Right.
Who was the 4th? Was it it was another running back.
See, I told you to pull it up on your phone so we can look at it.
But the top 5 or top 6 were all running backs. And Allen was at 6. Najee went right before you at
He
5.
did,
I
he
think
did.
that's a little too early.
And-
I would have liked him at 7, but
I would have went with Najee if he was available.
Okay.
I'll tell you that at 6, I would have done it because, like you said, the top 5 were running backs. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, somebody or the number one person started the run on running backs. I'm going to get one now. I can still get a premier running back. So with the 6th overall choice, I got Dalvin Cook.
okay. And then after that, no receivers have been off the board.
Right.
Now, Justin Jefferson, like I've said for the last couple weeks, he's my number 1 receiver. He was my number 5 overall. I was glad to get him at number 7.
Mm-hmm. It's a good pick at 7. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And we'll talk about the rest of my picks because you may not like them, but hey, we'll talk about it. But right after me went Jamar Chase at 8. 2 more running backs, 9, 10, and then Cooper Kupp at 11.
At 11, yeah, crazy. I fully expected Cup to go before Jefferson or before Chase, either one. I fully expected him to be the first receiver off the board, but he wasn't.
Kupp was my number 7 overall. Cook was my 6th, where you took him.
Mm-hmm.
But at 11, I thought a couple guys that went before him: DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon.
See, and that's part of the psychology I was talking about. I was telling you guys when it got back or up to me, I knew that running backs had been going, so I wanted to get a running back because I knew it was a short trip back down. Well, same trip back down, so I'd have the another shot at somebody else coming back down. So later in the end of the first round, or closer to the end of the first round, somebody else had that mentality too. That's why those guys went so quick. To be honest with you, at that point, I would not have been looking running back.
No.
No, I would have waited. If I'm that high, out of the top or out of the 12, if I'm that high, I know another pick's coming real quick, and I can get another running back.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have taken one of those guys. I would have went ahead receiver.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I would have taken Kupp over Mixon or Swift, both.
Yep.
But on the way back down, a couple running backs went, a couple of receivers went. Now, I went into this, and I didn't tell Alan this because I didn't want him to take the guys I wanted to, but I went into this draft thinking I was going to get one of those top 3 receivers at number 7. Saquon Barkley at 18, and then Zeke at 31. Now, Saquon went at 16, 2 picks before me, so I definitely couldn't get him. I went with Javonte. And a lot of people said, hey, that's way too early for Javonte. I like him. I think he's going to be the clear-cut starter.
It's a little bit earlier than I had him picked, but in the same round, just if I was going to be down at number 1 or number 2, maybe 3 or 4, I'd have looked at him there. But
yeah, and I didn't want to start off 2 receivers unless they were 2 elite receivers. And you took the guy that I was thinking about right after that, didn't you?
That would have been who was my second?
CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, the pick after me.
Yeah. So and knowing that, coming back down, I got a good running back. I'm trying to balance my team at this point. So picking CeeDee Lamb, one of the top receivers off the board, it was a slam dunk for me at that point because I knew he wasn't going to get back to me again, and he was the best receiver on the board at that time.
He did go before Diggs, though.
He did, which Diggs had an awesome, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but Diggs had an awesome night last night. Despite, the numbers don't look fantastic, but fantasy-wise, they look great.
Yes. And then the biggest surprise to me was this was near the end of the second round. Beginning of the third round went the first quarterback at 3-1 and 3-2.
Yeah.
Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Now, Josh Allen, of course, he's got the greatest name in fantasy football, so he's probably the best player out there.
Yep.
But all jokes aside, 3-1 and 3-2 for 2 quarterbacks. We thought that was quite a bit early.
It was. In my opinion, I think, at number 1, Jordan had the first pick. His brother had the first pick.
So Jordan took Josh Allen.
Right. And in my mind, what was going on there, and I may be off on this, I don't know, but I think he's going to get the top top quarterback that for his rankings, and he wants to start a run of quarterbacks. I don't know right offhand who he picked in the first round. Who was it? Oh, it was
JT.
JT. Yeah.
He took Zeke
So-
at 24, who I wanted at 31.
Right,
so
right. So at that point, he's got 2 running backs. He wants to start a string of quarterbacks going. So when it comes back down, he's got a wide receiver available, or maybe another running back. Depending on how he looks at it. But again, part of that psychology we talked about.
yeah,
One of the things that's really important for those of you guys who've been drafting for years and may not realize this or didn't think about this is when you see something like that that's odd, like right off the right out of the gates, you got to think, why was that pick made? Was that a terrible draft by somebody or a desperation pick by somebody? Probably not. It was probably more of a, I'm going to get the best at this position and start to run on this position.
well, the thing with Jordan too, he was the first pick overall. So at 25, he's not getting a pick again until
right.
what, 48? Yeah, 48. So
Yeah, good point. So he was kind of in a position where if it comes back down to him, it might end up being his only choice, maybe a quarterback.
yeah,
In this way, it was at least smart of him to draft a quarterback and try to start that string, and he almost did. The next pick right after that was also a quarterback.
Justin Herbert. Yeah, number
So,
2 overall or
so,
quarterback,
good-
which I don't necessarily think. I think Justin Herbert's a top 5. I don't think he's a top 2.
No, I don't either. But that being said, it only worked through the next pick. And then we went back to other skill positions. So coming back up,
You were 4 picks after Herbert. So who was your next pick?
my next pick at number 6 again was Tyreek Hill. Hill. The reason I picked Hill, and I'm not even looking at preseason or anything that happened in preseason, that 59-yard catch or whatever it was. I don't care about that. I don't look at preseason for that. But that being said, Hill is probably the fastest man in football.
Yeah.
Now, Tua's arm may be questionable when you get down 60, 70 yards.
He can throw it far. He just is not accurate.
Right.
So.
It may be a little questionable when you get to that point, but with Tyreek's speed, he's going to outrun defensive players. He's going to have a chance to adjust to that. So my thought on that was, again, I'm with one running back and one wide receiver at this point. So I'm looking at another wide receiver to, just kind of complement my first one. I can get a running back, in later rounds.
Yeah, and I was looking at Hill actually too. So if it wouldn't have been CeeDee Lamb, who I like Javonte Williams just a little higher than in round 2, I was actually looking at Tyreek Hill in round 3, but I took Travis Etienne, who I absolutely love. Remember, I was going for Zeke in the 3rd round, but Jordan took him at 24. So he had already been gone in 7 picks. So
and hold on, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me just run through something here too, because at that point, the alcohol had been flowing a little bit.
It had
And
multiple hours, by the way. So
Josh and I made a little bet. Do you remember the bet, Josh, that we made?
I honestly don't. So you can blame that on
All right. So
Anheuser-Busch or whoever. So
Anheuser-Busch.
Anheuser-Busch.
I got you. Okay. Well, we made a little bet. Josh obviously doesn't remember that. Nice long night. But the bet was if Zeke is going to end up as a top 5 running back.
Oh, he will be. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what he said at the draft too. I'm saying no, and here's why I'm saying no. A guy by the name of Tony Pollard. That's why I'm saying no. Okay, I get that. I get that. And I've heard comments from coaching staff in Dallas. I've heard local newspaper, I've read local newspaper articles about it from the local reporters, the people who kind of get in and know a little bit more than everybody else. And what's going to happen, here's what's going to happen. Tony Pollard's going to get a little bit more than he had last year, which is going to cut into Zeke's time. It's going to cut into his catches. Going to cut into it. Will.
I don't see it. I think both Saquon and Zeke are going to be.
So do you know what we bet? Oh yeah, that's right. You don't remember the bet. So
what did we bet, Alan?
We bet. Let me dwell on that.
Oh my God.
No, we bet a case of beer. We bet a case of beer.
Case
right?
of beer. So
a case of beer on that. So you guys have it out there. You guys hold him accountable when he loses, and let me know What you
half
guys think
point
about it?
PPR, 100 yards, 5 bonus points. That's our
For
scoring.
receiving and rushing.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's always that option with running backs. Remember that guy Priest Holmes? He used to do that like
Oh
every
my
season
God,
for like
yes.
3 seasons in a row.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. So I took ETN at 31 overall, who I absolutely love. We're in Rockford, Illinois. James Robinson is a
Local boy.
hometown hero. Yes,
Local
he's
boy.
a hometown hero. Set national records when he was in high school.
By the way, if you're watching, he's not watching, but if you're watching James, we love you, man. We love you.
Yes, and he was the next great coming. But ETN has that job. Robinson coming off an injury, I think ETN is going to be huge, especially with his pass catching ability. A lot of people don't know this. Alan knows. He went to college with Trevor Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
Played at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
The last year Trevor Lawrence was there, did you know that ETN actually led the nation in receiving yards as a running back?
No, I did not know that.
Okay.
You know why?
Because you don't care about college football, but that's how versatile. That's how versatile that ETN is. I mean, not only can he break those long runs, but he can break those ankles when he catches the pass out of the backfield.
Yep. My big question with him, and I know he's got a lot of talent. James Robinson, awesome football player. You know, taking nothing away from him. Unfortunately, coming off of a injury season, I stay away from those kinds of players. I did have him on my radar before that injury happened last season for this season, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I will say this: he is a talented player, and I do expect him to have a good season, but. I think Robinson, once he's healthy and gets back in the swing, he's going to cut into his workload a little bit. I'd temper my expectations. I'd say he's going to have a good season, like I said, but I'd temper my expectations just a little bit on at least for one more season.
If he does not get injured, he's going to be a star. Mark my words.
And I'm not doubting that. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying.
But
at
if
this
the
point,
injury
at this
is a big if. So
yeah, well, and that and the fact that Jacksonville's got 2 really good running backs right now.
they do.
They've got 2 really, really solid running backs who could start on pretty much any team, notwithstanding the current starters. And some
I think James Robinson is more of a bruiser.
He is. He's a smart ball player.
ETN fits the Trevor Lawrence offense much, much better than James Robinson does.
And that's because they played together before and they know how each other thinks and moves and cuts
Trevor
and
Lawrence
whatever.
checks down.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's going to be good. I think this year I tempered a little bit. Next season I would look for a big season if Robinson's gone.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I still think he's going to have a big season this year.
That's fine. You can think whatever you want to. You think your team's good too, and Anyway, moving on. All right.
All right. So you have the next pick.
I did.
Round 4.
Round 4. I don't even know what that. No,
Josh
it says
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs. This is Josh's handwriting, and he can't even write his own name very well. Anyway, moving on. So anyway, I picked Josh Jacobs. The reason I did, I'm going to tell you, the guy does limp a lot. I get it. But on the bright side, he is a good talent. He's going to be in an offense that is going to be explosive. In my opinion, I think they're going to be an awesome offense this year. He's going to be a big part of that. At this point, he's probably the best, at least in my opinion, the best running back that's still on the board. Now, keep in mind that we're in round 4, and we've had a ton of running backs going in between.
Probably 25 running backs already.
Yeah,
so.
it's been quite a few at that point. So, Josh Jacobs was my highlight.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about how he's overrated. I think he's severely underrated. I think he's going to have a great year, barring injuries again. He's those Alabama running backs like Josh Jacobs. They have a history of injuries. Derrick Henry, Trent Richardson. I'm not going to mention any more names.
And then the list goes on.
Yes, that was at pick 41. Now my next pick, I got a lot of flack for, and not only from the rest of the guys, but this guy Allen. I took Dameon Pierce. Now I know that might be 2-3 rounds early, but I took him at 42. I'm a big believer in Dameon Pierce. I really liked him out of college. I liked what he did in the Senior Bowl. And there's no competition whatsoever in Houston. I mean, Rex Burkhead is there, but who? I mean, there's no competition.
Now that being said, in this draft, you probably drafted 20 running backs or something like that.
We'll get into that in a few rounds,
Okay.
and I will tell you.
Well, anyway, so tell me what was going through your head at this point, because obviously in your mind you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna go running back heavy. Well, what's going through your mind at this point when you pick him?
When I pick him, I had my top 13 rounds for best available player,
Okay.
and he was the next best available player on my list.
Okay.
Like we talked about before, best available player doesn't mean what Yahoo says, doesn't mean what
ESPN
Fantasy
or
Pros says.
anybody else for that matter.
You need to have your own list, and we'll get into why I drafted the first 9 rounds how I did, because of my best available player list. So
Now I'll say this: I had a cheat sheet from Fantasy Pros that I was referencing. Their rankings were very close to what I thought, but there was some big discrepancies in other spots too. So I was going by my own rankings, and if you would have looked at my sheet, you'd just seen circles down here and then lines through people that were already up here because I didn't want them.
I had DeAndre Swift in the 6th round, so in my rankings.
Yeah, so I mean, again, sticking to your own, and I can't stress this enough, sticking to your own philosophy, your own beliefs is what make or breaks you. Over many seasons, you learn to refine how you do that.
Yeah.
And it's very important that you do that. So I can't stress that enough. But
So
anyway,
after 4 rounds, you have 2 running backs, 2 receivers.
Right.
I have
Fairly
1
balanced.
receiver, who I think is the number 1 overall. I mean, that's arguable. Justin Jefferson,
Sure.
some people could say Cobb Chase.
Yep.
And 3 running backs. So I have 1 and 3, and you have 2 and 2.
Yeah, I've got a little bit more balanced team than you, but there's more to come.
Yes.
So coming back down.
Coming back, you have the pick before me.
Yes, you're right. No.
Yeah,
We're
round
going-
5.
oh, yeah, round
yes,
5. We're
round
going back.
5. You have 54.
All right, so at that point, I've got, like you said, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, so I need to keep this team balanced, right? So now, and you're going to scoff at this, and I totally get it, and some of you guys are going to scoff at this too, but in my opinion, other than Josh Allen, because obviously he's the greatest football player ever with that name, but other than him, Joe Burrow was the number 1 quarterback. So overall, I had him at number 2.
Okay.
And in my opinion, Cincinnati's offense is going to explode. The reason I got
I
Burrow,
agree with you.
the reason I got Burrow at this point again to keep my team balanced, but also I don't think he's coming back to me. I really don't think coming back down he's going to be there. I think somebody else is going
And
to.
I don't either. And here's one thing that I noticed, and here's one of our things we talked about before the draft. Neither one of us like to take quarterbacks early. We already talked about how Josh Allen, Justin Herbert went 31-32. Or, no, I'm sorry. 25-26.
24, 25. Wasn't it?
No, 25-26.
Okay.
So 2 quarterbacks in the 3rd, which is still too early for both of us.
It is.
Mahomes and Murray went in the 4th round, which is still too early that either one of us think a quarterback should go.
Yep.
Kyler went at 51. So you got 5 top 8 quarterbacks already out of the way. Allen took Burrow at 54.
Even
He-
top 10.
yeah.
We'll say top 10.
Yeah, top 10. No, Allen normally wouldn't have taken Burrow there, but the fact that 5 quarterbacks were already gone.
And in my opinion, he was the number 2 overall quarterback. So at that point, I don't have a whole lot of choice. I pretty much got to go that direction.
And I respect that. I respect that. My next pick right after that, I took Rashad Bateman. I am really high on Rashad Bateman this year. I was huge on Marquise Brown last year. Allen was pretty big on him last year.
I was.
He would have been a top 3 receiver had he not had those huge drops that we witnessed almost every Sunday.
Would still haunt me in my sleep.
Yes, Lamar Jackson is more accurate than people give him credit for. You know, he flicks his wrist and the ball goes 70 yards.
He's a stud quarterback. There's no question.
He
about it.
is. He is. I did
Still
not get
doesn't
him.
have an offensive line, but that's not the point.
Yeah, I didn't get him. Neither did you. But I took Rashad Bateman. at 55. So 5th round. So as of right now, you're sitting 2, 2, and 1.
Yep.
I got 3 running backs and 2 receivers.
See where this is going?
See where this is going. Coming back down, on the way back down to me. By the way, in the meantime, Tom Brady went 61, which means 6th round, first pick.
Yeah.
I love Brady this year in the 13th round. I mean, I absolutely love Brady in the 13th round.
Absolutely. Do I love Brady this year? No. Do I love Brady any year? No. But that's not the point.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. There's a lot more talent above him.
Yeah, I really had my eye on Hurts. I was going to take him. Okay.
I'm sorry. When I say talent, I mean from a fantasy perspective. My bad.
Yes. And attracting women perspective.
Yeah,
so
apparently.
Yeah. Apparently, you got to have millions in the bank to makes you attractive. Who would have known? But at that point, Allen had taken Burrow. Brady went, which I didn't have my eye on. But at that point, 5 to 6 quarterbacks had already gone. I really liked Jalen Hurts. To me, it's going to be a top 3. Now, I'm not making a bet on that, Jono, but I have him as in my top 3. He went 2 picks before I did. So at that point, Gabriel Davis was still available at round 6, pick 7. I thought, are you kidding me? You know, we saw what he did the other night. You know, he had 6 catches, 88 yards, a touchdown.
Yeah, he had a good night for sure.
Yeah, he's in the Buffalo Bills offense. So,
and that ball's going to get spread around a lot. But I think Diggs, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about Gubb. But I think Diggs and actually both of those guys,
I think they're both going to feed.
Yeah, they're going to see the bulk of those.
Absolutely.
Balls, for sure.
And then who was your next pick?
Okay, so coming back down, I had, Melvin Gordon III.
Okay.
All right.
He's trying to handcuff Javante, who I took in the 2nd. Who I
Okay,
love, by the way.
So here's why I did that. Melvin Gordon is potentially explosive. Yes, he's not going to be the workhorse or the only running back there or anything like that, but he is going to get some of his own carries. He's going to get some of his own receptions. He will have a productive season when I need him to, or I should say productive week when I need him to.
Yes.
What I did was I looked up the bye weeks, lined it up to see what I have so far and how that's going to fit in. That's why I watched the bye weeks. I know that you can make adjustments if you have multiple players on a bye week, but that's the reason I look at bye weeks. I want to see who they're filling in for and who they're playing when they fill in for them. So, that being said, at that point, I think it was probably my best bet was to go running back again. Somebody, I ain't going to mention anybody's name, but it's hogging running backs here, and I seen that was happening. So, and I figured that would probably go on, and we'll find out if it did. But that's where I was with.
I like that pick. I don't like Melvin Gordon in Denver. However, I do think him and another guy, Hunt, who neither one of us got, unfortunately, could be starting running back on a different team by the end of this year.
I think so. And the problem that I have with that is
a la LA Rams, and we'll talk about that Thursday.
Yeah. The problem that I have with that is going to another season or another team mid-season is a huge adjustment. There's a lot of work there. You're going to get all the basic plays, and you're going to run those for a long time before you branch out into other stuff, unless everything just happens to click. But
there is, but I think Melvin Gordon's been around the league long enough. He's been in the systems, depending on what system he goes into. Run heavy system. If he goes to LA Rams, he could thrive. But
what if he goes to Detroit? I don't think they have a system. Then what?
They have a system of losing, and that's doesn't matter. So
Fair enough.
All right, but after that, it's coming back down to you. So at this point, wait a minute, that's 6 picks.
6 was coming down, so we're going back.
So you have three running backs, right?
I have 3 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 quarterback.
Okay.
So my team again is balanced.
Okay, so I have 3 and 3, which okay. So my first 6 picks are running backs and receivers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're up next, round 7.
No, that was coming down. Okay.
You're at 78.
You're right. So, so coming back down, I had to get a part of that Raiders offense somehow, some way. So I went with Hunter Renfrow. The guy was amazing last year.
Yeah.
The year before last, I had him on my team, and I seen what he was gonna do the next season, and thought he was gonna do it that season. Screwed me. So Hunter Renfrow has finally come into his own. They've got plays specifically for him. They've got a lot of things going on that are going to be Hunter Renfrow friendly, if you will.
Yeah.
So I had to get another receiver. Again, I've got my star quarterback. I've got 2 running backs. I got 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. So I had to keep that balance going. So I went with the wide receiver.
Yeah, and I like Renfro. He's the safety valve for Carr.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another receiver that I would have taken if he was available, the next pick, but you took him at 78. So I took Rashad Penny at 79. And I love Rashad Penny, even though I traded him away before week 1. Kenneth Walker, the 4th, is, I think, probably going to be, could have been, I'll say it, the number 1 rookie this year, running back. Even better than Breece Hall, had he not gotten injured. Now, Rashad Penny, you saw what he did the last 8 weeks of the season. He was 4th in yards after, yards after breaking tackle or yards after contact.
Yeah, yards after contact.
Yeah, so he could be a stud. Now, keep in mind, Russell Wilson's not there, which I don't like any of those receivers. And that could make a difference. But Rashad Penny at pick 7, I thought I couldn't pass it up.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can see that as being, especially with the amount of running backs that that have gone off the board already. That you still went heavy on. Anyway.
So at this point, I have 4 running backs, 3 receivers through 7 rounds.
Yep. So next round.
Next round.
I went with another wide receiver. Again, I'm trying to keep that balance. So I went with the best available wide receiver that I thought at that particular point in time was going to be Tyler Lockett.
Okay.
I don't like the quarterback situation there. It scares the hell out of me.
I don't think anybody does that.
Yeah, I mean, Geno who?
Geno Smith.
Oh,
he was great at West Virginia in college with Tavon Austin, but hey.
Yeah, he got his jaw broken.
You're like, who?
And it went straight to hell from there. So I don't like the quarterback situation, but again, trying to keep that balance. And you'll see that change here shortly. But trying to keep that balance, trying to get another wide receiver. I see people stocking up on different things. So if I go a little bit wide receiver heavy at this point, I'm not worried.
Yeah. And I switched it up in round 8. I went with another running back. So
Wow.
Ramondre Stevenson at pick 90, I thought was, how is this guy still available? Damian Harris went 3-4 rounds before him. I think Ramondre is going to be the clear-cut number 1 in New England. I don't see what the hype is with Damian Harris. Now, granted, it's in a Belichick offense, which is why he was still available in round 8 at pick 90.
That's exactly why I wasn't looking at him.
Yes.
He's in a Belichick offense.
Yeah.
I will say not a bad pick. It's probably one of those picks that's either going to be a huge asset or a huge ass, one of the two for your team. We'll see how it pans out. I did not have him on my radar at that point.
Okay.
Now, if he'd have been available way later in the draft, I probably would have jumped on it.
And that seems to be my theme, according to all my league mates. They say I'm taking guys too early, I'm reaching, but you know what? That's why these are my rankings, not yours, not theirs.
Yeah, no, I agree. But and you know the thing is, you live and die by the sword. So you know it's one of those things. It's a boom or bust, and you find out you can make adjustments during the season. You know, with free agency, and because there's always people that pop up that you like. Really, that guy is doing what? You know. So there's adjustments you can
There's
make.
starting running backs that we've never heard of before that are going to be
Oh, I think so, yeah.
on the radar. So
James Robinson was a great example of that, speaking of the local guy.
yeah,
So, all right, cool. So, up to me, right?
up to you. Yes, after I went 90, then you were next at 91.
All right. So I went tight end again, keeping that balance. I've got some good bulk at wide receiver, some good bulk at running back. Got my quarterback. I went tight end. The reason I went tight end because a lot of tight ends went earlier than I really thought they would. Round number 1,
Yes.
We had a tight end coming right off the board, and was it
Kelsey at 12, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then I think Andrews went second round, so.
Yeah, I think so. And then there was another one that was a couple rounds before
Pitts went
this, but
third, which is way too early, I think.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm looking at, I guess volume more than anything. So I picked Freiermuth from Pittsburgh. Not the greatest tight end in the NFL, but you know what? He's probably going to get some points on the board for me and do his part to take me to my championship, at least in a small aspect.
Yeah. And then you had him at 102, and I took Christian Kirk, who I absolutely love this year.
I got to talk about this. We talked about this already, but so here's what happened. I'm a huge Christian Kirk fan this year too. Strong arm quarterback, the whole 9 yards. He got everything going for him. He's set up for success. What happened at this point was I'm going through my list, and again, I'm not using the exact rankings, so
this is so funny.
I circle Christian Kirk's on my list, and it took somebody like 4 or 5 hours or something to make a pick. It seemed like forever.
Yeah.
So in this time, I'm talking to people, drinking non-alcoholic beverages or whatever. But anyway, at this point, by the time it finally gets to me, I'm like, great, I got this. And I look at my list, and I'm like, who's I going to pick? So I start looking down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I was going to pick. And I overlooked Christian Kirk because he was already circled. I shouldn't have done that. My bad.
You took Freiermuth.
So I took Freiermuth at that point.
And I took Christian Kirk.
And I just about threw up. So, and it wouldn't have been so bad if it wouldn't have went to him.
Yes.
That's the problem.
And through 9 rounds, I don't have anything other than a receiver and a running back. I have 5 running backs and 4 receivers,
he's killing me.
Which I'm happy with. But here's where it really turned around. In round 10, I took Aaron Rodgers. Now, a lot of people say Aaron Rodgers is not a good quarterback, fantasy. I'm a little higher on Aaron Rodgers. Now, here's the thing, though. We already talked about how Allen Herbert, Mahomes, Murray, Kyler, Burrow, Brady Hurts. In that meantime, in the last couple rounds, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance went 10 or 12 picks before Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott went, which he probably should have gone before Lance. But at that point, I thought, I'm going to take the next available quarterback that is on my list, and Rodgers was there. So.
Now, I'll say this. I'm not a Packer fan, and I never, ever admit to that, even on a bet. Even if I lose a bet.
Yeah.
But I will give credit where credit is due. Aaron Rodgers has been immunized. I did not have Aaron Rodgers on my radar at all for this draft. I don't want Aaron Rodgers. He was right up there with Christian McCaffrey for me, so I'm glad somebody else picked them, so I didn't have to do that in the last minute.
Is that good for the 10th round, though?
It's not a bad pick. From a fantasy perspective, he's going to put up numbers.
Okay.
From a real football perspective, I'm not liking Aaron Rodgers this season.
Okay.
I'll say that, again, from a fantasy perspective, I think that your points are going to be there, but I don't like the guy personally, and I don't like the situation he's in right now.
Okay.
Great quarterbacks make the receivers better. He'll probably make his receivers better, but how much better is the big question.
Well, I mean, I hate Aaron Rodgers as a person. So you said you don't like him as a person. I hate him as a person, but
I was trying to be nice.
I would put him up in the same category as Brady in the fact that he makes his receivers better. He's going to make some superstars out of these receivers. There's a reason he was the MVP, reigning 2-time. Now, yes, I got drunk and I made a stupid bet that Rodgers would be top 5 quarterback. Remember that? And he could be. He very well could be, but he probably won't. But I'm higher on Rodgers this year than most people.
Okay.
And then right after I took Rodgers, you took
Matthew Stafford. Which, after last night's game, looks like a terrible decision, but I'm going to swing back to last week's episode.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that for just a second, because we did the over and under on that. Now, Josh, you picked the over on it, which is I get it. But during the show, I talked about the other aspect.
The defense.
That's right. So I seen that coming. Both defenses looked really good last night. No credit away from Los Angeles, even though they lost the game, but they looked really good as far as the defense.
They did. And there was
Other
four,
than one thing, we'll talk about that.
and
later.
it went under.
Yep. And
But-
it did go under. So that was my thought process on that. Now Stafford. As you guys know, I got Burrow as my quarterback, my starting quarterback. I got Stafford as an insurance policy and possibly a trade bait.
You know they're both on the same bye week.
They are.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No, actually, they're
Are
not.
they?
Are they? No, they're
No,
not.
I have no idea.
You liar.
I just wanted
I
to
do
see
have
his
two players
reaction.
in the No, that's
I have
fine.
a lot of players in the
I
same
don't-
bye week,
I
but
really don't care. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, because Stafford's going to be trade bait or Burrow's going to be trade bait. Somebody's going to be trade bait. If nobody bites on it, that's fine. I'll sit on both of those top.
I will tell you this
quarterbacks.
though: that game should have gone plenty over if Buffalo hadn't turned the ball over 3 times in the first half.
Rams turned it over twice, though. Well, 2 interceptions, I should say.
Well, 2 interceptions and a James
fumble.
Cook fumble, so
Yep.
that game could have been 45-10, you know,
Could
or
have been.
52-10,
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been.
but it wasn't.
It
So
wasn't.
yes.
That's right. So that was my thought process in getting that second quote unquote star quarterback to add to my team. Again, I'm lacking in the less skill position. I shouldn't say less skill because kickers will hate me for saying that. So will defenses.
Yes.
But the less point getter categories in fantasy football, I'm still weak on those. But there's a little bit more draft to go. Now the last few rounds, we're just gonna kind of
We're not going to talk about rounds 14, 15 because that's a defense and a kicker.
Right.
And one thing that stuck out to me, oh my god, kickers and defenses from rounds 10 to 12, I think there were 9 or 10 of them taken.
Yeah, it was an insane number for that point in the draft.
In fact, Alan and I both have our rankings. I had them all through round 13, even though we were in a round 15 round draft.
Yep.
And I showed him and I said, here's my round 14 defense. Here's my round 15 kicker. Whoever's available, I'm taking. I don't care. Like Taco on the league.
Yeah.
Throw one up. I'll take it.
Right. Yeah, I was a little bit more cautious with it. I tried to get at least better, players or teams in that category, in those categories. But we're not going to talk about that because
Yeah. I think Justin Tucker went before Aaron Rodgers. Can you believe
We'll,
that?
we'll actually go through a couple more of these, and then we'll skip on to the next thing because we do want to talk about some of the picks on here. We're going to be running
Yes.
short on time pretty quick here.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right, so let's run through the rest of our picks.
I took Madison in round 11.
Okay.
A lot of guys gave me flack for that, but however, Cook, with his injury history, you have Cook,
Mm-hmm.
and Cook's a star, you know. But if he goes down in that offense, Madison is a RB1 automatically.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that's my
There's
11th
no-
round pick.
There's no option there.
Yeah.
Other than that, so
Same with your 11th round pick.
Yeah,
You know,
and-
McKissick could be
he could be.
an RB1.
The way I look at it is McKissick's going to get a lot of receptions. Half-point PPR league, again, filling it on a bye week, totally fine. He may give me some really good points through the year. I don't know. We'll see. Who was your next pick?
My next pick was Jamal Williams from Detroit. He's an afterthought. He's going to sit on my bench unless DeAndre Swift goes down. Again, he could be an RB1 if DeAndre Swift goes down.
And that's
so.
one of those players that you pick with the hope that something happens good for you.
Yeah, and that's my RB number 7 in the 12th round. So I ended up with 7 running backs in this draft, and I'm okay with that. So that's why you got to build depth. That's why we talk about it.
For injury situations, I totally agree with that. But and that's a whole nother show. We'll talk about that. But
Okay.
anyway, so my next pick was Tyler Higbee. Had to get a part of that that defense or that offense somehow in the Rams. So I picked up Higbee. Actually, yesterday I actually started
Freiermuth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Over Higbee. Higbee would have outscored Freiermuth at this point. On my other league, I have Higbee also. He would have outscored my starting Dawson Knox.
What did Higbee have, though, by the way?
He had 8 points. I don't know what it worked out to in yardage.
And a half point.
Oh, I'm not sure. It'd have been a little bit less. I don't know.
6 or 7, I think, yeah.
It would have been a little bit less, but he still would have outscored anybody else that I had on my other
Well,
team.
Freiermuth, we'll see. Freiermuth could be a
exactly,
star
exactly.
against
And
that
That's
Cincinnati
kind of what I'm
team.
banking on.
Okay.
So, who's your next pick?
David Njoku, and I absolutely love David Njoku in the 13th round.
In the 13th round, not a bad pick. My opinion, again, a boomer bust kind of guy.
Yeah.
Either he's going to find his way or he's not this season. So, yeah, I don't see it as a bad pick.
The only problem,
especially since you don't have very many running backs at this point.
Only 7. So, the only problem in Cleveland is the quarterback situation. If Baker was still there, I would say Njoku could be a Julius Thomas type and be a top 5, top 7 tight end.
Possibly. Yeah.
But and with Watson, he may never come back. Who knows?
Yeah.
But who knows? But I think Njoku, however you pronounce it, I think he's going to be underrated this year. In the 13th round, he could be a top 6 tight end.
Well, even if he's a top 7, at that point in the draft, you're still getting a good buy on that one.
Yeah.
So, moving on to my next pick was actually we're getting down into our kicker and defense now.
We're not going to talk about kicker defense, but your last pick in the 13th was Tyler Boyd. I really, really liked that pick.
Yeah. At that point in the draft, he's there. I need a little bit of padding. So, Tyler Boyd again had to get in on that offense somehow, some way. And Tyler Boyd at that point was still available and kind of shocked me, so I went there.
Well, here's the thing: if Chase or T Higgins, or Chase and/or T Higgins goes down, Tyler Boyd is money. You saw what happened when AJ Green got injured a couple of years ago. Tyler Boyd was a top 15 receiver.
Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm making.
And that's with Dalton. So I think
Yeah.
Burrow's a much better quarterback than Dalton. So
Really? You think so?
yeah, just a
I
little
mean,
bit.
Dalton had a good season with the.
No, Dalton was
No,
good in Cincinnati, but he went to the Bears where quarterbacks go to die.
Every time we say Bears, we should say that.
Yes, yes.
So, so a couple of things we do want to kind of point out throughout the draft. Some notable picks. What do you want to
A
start
couple
with?
notable picks. Cooper Kupp lasted till 11, and that just kind of flabbergasted me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially since Mixon and Swift went ahead of him.
Yep.
I had Kupp as my 7th overall. And
Yeah.
you had him 7-8, didn't you?
Well, overall, probably about. I think I had him at 8th. I think
Okay.
overall.
Even though I had the 7th pick, I didn't
and-
take him because I had Jefferson at 5 overall, was still
Right.
available. So
Right. Yeah, I mean at that point, you know, if I'm at 6 and he's available and there's a lot of running backs off the board, I'd have went with him right then too. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, at 7. I said 6. I'm at 7.
Yeah.
If I'm at 7, and a lot of running backs are going, I'd probably want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Another notable pick was Brady at 61. That's again 6-1. He was at the 61st pick, 6th round, first pick. He went ahead of Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott. Now he could be a big year. It's Brady. He could have a big year. It's Brady. However, that's 4 or 5 rounds too early.
Yeah, it
He
is.
could have waited 4 or 5 rounds and got him. Trey
Yeah.
Lance at 87, before Dak and Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. I don't agree with that.
I think Lance will be fine. I think he'll do good in San Francisco. I don't rank him at this point above any of those guys.
Yeah.
you mentioned.
Yeah, and then the last one was my pick, Dameon Pierce at 42. 4 rounds earlier than he probably should have gone. I'm really, really high on Dameon Pierce. A lot of the guys in our league are skilled, like we are. I didn't think I would have the chance to get him 13 picks later at 55, so that's why I took him. It could come back to bite me, but it could turn out to be a league winner. So we'll see.
It could be
Yeah,
a make
we'll
or
see.
break. Who knows? All right. So I don't really have any notable picks that I mean we talked about these and these are some things that I noticed or that you noticed, and the other thing that I guess I could add to that would be, you know, the way quarterbacks went, the way tight ends went
Yeah.
was totally not what I expected. We talked before about knowing the people that you're drafting with. This is my first time on this league with Josh. He's been doing it with those guys for many years. So the way the draft went kind of surprised me. I expected one thing and it went totally different direction on me. So I was able to
Tony
keep,
usually picks Mahomes in the 1st or 2nd round, and he lasted till the 4th. So,
Right.
and Tony didn't even take him.
So quick summary. How do you feel about your team? What do you think? Give me a summary of your team and I'll do the same thing. We'll kind of do each other's team as well.
I like my team because my philosophy every year is to build depth.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not just the reason I started off with 5 running backs, 4 receivers wasn't because I want to build that running back receiver depth. I really stuck to my guns this year. I didn't get too drunk before the draft and go away from my my list.
You've
But
been drunker than that before the draft?
yeah,
Okay.
surprisingly. But
right.
the best available player I took all the way up through round 15, and I'm really really happy about it.
Okay. All right, I'll give you a quick summary of my team. I think I have a balanced team. I do have some players that are going to be either boom or bust. If not, I can make adjustments during the season to compensate for that. But I think I have a balanced team. Not overly strong in any category other than quarterback, which I can only start one. We talked about that.
Yes.
But other than that, I think I'm pretty well balanced. Give me your opinion on my team.
Your team, I think, it's pretty well balanced. There's a couple guys that we talked about. Tyler Lockett, I really don't care for.
Fair enough.
Especially with the quarterback situation that's there.
I hate your whole team. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I like Freiermuth. However, I don't like the fact you took Higbee as a second tight end before you took another receiver running back.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. All right. Cool.
But other than that, I love your team. So
Okay.
I'll trade you Burrow for Rodgers right now. You guys heard it. He said he nodded.
All right. So I'll give you a quick summary of your team, from my opinion. I think you went running back heavy a little too much. Just how I just don't draft that way necessarily unless there's a whole lot of really good options, later in the draft. You've got some guys that are going to be boom or bust. You've got some guys that are shoo-ins for good numbers. Overall, from a fantasy points perspective, I think you're pretty well balanced. I think you're going to have good production in a lot of categories. When it comes to kicker and defense, we're both probably going to choke a little bit on that.
We're going to stream week to week. I mean, it's the kicker, it's the defense.
Yeah. So, but I think you'll have good production. It may be a little bit spotty, a little bit more here from this category, a little bit more there from another category. If your team puts it all together, I think you'll have a solid season.
I think so too. I hope so.
I hope not. After going through our drafts, I think we're both pretty happy with our teams. Couple things. So last night was Thursday night, the other night was Thursday night. We
don't really need to talk much about that game, besides the fact that the Los Angeles Rams offensive line is not as good as anybody thought they were.
They're not. The other thing that really stood out in my mind was so Ramsey was running around on the field. He looked like I'm not going to say a chicken with its head cut off, but I'm going to say he looked like a wounded duck.
Yes.
Looked like he had 3 left feet. They were all going in different directions.
And I'm sure you saw the meme that was posted in our league group chat.
I actually did not, because I've been working all day.
Okay,
so
you'll have to look at it, but it's inappropriate for
I'll tell you later. I won't say anything to anybody about what it is. But anyway, a little bit of a disappointment on the Rams side.
Yeah.
Kind of what we expected on the Bills side. Like I said before, both defenses look pretty good overall. By the way, Josh Allen is leading the league in interceptions now.
Yes.
Just so you know.
He's on pace for 34, so hey.
Yeah, hey. I mean, records are meant to be broken. That's what they're meant to be. Anyway, let's talk about Matt Ryan a little bit.
Matt Ryan, okay. Matt Ryan, and I don't know if you knew before this week. I didn't. We were both doing some research on some passing numbers before this week. Matt Ryan's 265 yards away from 60,000.
It's a hell of a milestone.
I would have never thought that.
Me either.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to get it against Houston?
I think so. Houston's defense is pretty weak.
I do too.
I think he'll get it this week. Congratulations, Matt Ryan, in advance.
Yes.
I think he's going to do well in that offense. So
I really do too.
Yeah. So we'll kind of see. I had him in the back of my mind during the whole draft. So But
We're on Matt Ryan watch this week, but we're on Cup watch for the whole
Every week.
season, just to see if he can get that 200 catches.
That's right.
But yeah, other than that, you got anything that's got you bent?
I mean, the biggest thing that's got me bent is my bet prediction, because I'm a little worried about it. No.
I would be too.
I do have one thing that's got me bent, and I'm going to make this brief because we all know that Tom Brady and I have a long history of not liking each other. He just doesn't say it in public, and I say it. But that being said, this whole situation with him and Giselle, the reason I'm bent about this is because it's actually taking up space where football information should be.
In other words, who cares?
Exactly,
Let's talk about
exactly.
football.
Right. I don't care if his marriage is in peril. I don't care. If he's a real pro and he's really the GOAT, then that's not going to affect him. Now, that being said, I'm not a Brady fan, fantasy perspective. I'm not a Brady fan, real life perspective. He will put up some numbers. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But this whole situation with him and his wife, I don't want to know if my wife and I are having a fight. I don't call him and tell him, or I don't put it in his local newspaper.
He just calls me and tells me,
I do.
I take her side every single time.
Yeah, I know. What is that all? Forget it. It's another show. But anyway, so that's what's got me bent this week. I just don't. I'm done with Brady. I'm done with Brady. I'm done with Rodgers. Just get them away from me. We're not even going to talk about. Well, I guess we have to.
Okay, I don't have a gub. I'm not going to do my first gub until after we see the Sunday games.
Fair enough.
Okay, I was really, really disappointed with that Rams offensive line. I would say Denny Green. They are who we thought they were, but they weren't. Okay, they're much worse than we are. They are who we thought they were.
Absolutely.
So that running back situation in L.A. God, who knows now? I mean, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers. I don't think any of them really have any starting value.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Given the defense they were playing a good stout Buffalo defense. Giving that fact, Henderson did look better than Akers. Got more carries than Akers. Had a couple decent runs, but nothing major. I think against a softer defense, I think Henderson's a borderline starter. He's definitely in the flex.
It all depends on the QBs too. I mean, look at they barely started a snap in the preseason, so
Right.
well, we'll have to see, and how that affects other teams this week. We'll have to see as well. So,
Right.
But other than that, you got anything else?
No, I actually have nothing else other than one thing that just came to my mind is I need you guys to help us out. I need you guys to hit the like, subscribe, share down below.
Yes.
Share this with your friends. Subscribe. We don't only do a show once a week. And who knows when the hell in the week that's going to be anyway, because we kind of vary it. So,
we're old. We're in bed by 7 p.m. So
most of the time, yeah, if we're lucky. If you're not in bed by 11, go home. But we need you guys to help us out.
We do.
We got some good people that listen and watch the show, so help us out. Hit like, subscribe, and share below, and make sure that everybody knows to just get bent.
On fantasy football.
Cool.
All right. Man, that was an hour, dude.
I know, that's why I was like trying to speed it up at the end here.